Good morning. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to our update on the Westchester County's plans for the 2025 budget for our county. I'm joined by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins and our Director of Operations, Joan McDonald. And before the end of our program, we'll be greeting the Chair of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, Vedat Gashi, as well. We're here today to make the next step in a stage of activities that leads to our annual budget for 2025. Now, the county government operates on a calendar year fiscal year, meaning that January 1st begins our fiscal year as well as it does our calendar year, and that year ends on December 31st. The state, school districts, a number of other governments villages have different types of cycles, but all of our towns, 4 of our 6 cities, and the county government all have a calendar year structure. So as we approach where we are now, literally in the middle of the month of October, we start making plans public about what we intend to see for our budget for 2025. And the budget is broken into a number of different component parts. Today we are presenting to the Board of Legislators and to the public our capital budget program. Joan is going to explain some of the different component parts of what's in this capital budget, and that will represent some of the physical improvements that we will be paying for in the course of the 2025 year. Now, to complete a project is not merely just to budget money to set aside for it. You know yourself in your home. If you make plans to finance an improvement on your house, knowing that you have the money to do it is the first step, but not the last step. You have to figure out who the contractor is going to be, unless you can do it yourself, and buying the equipment, the supplies, and the time frame, and setting up the staging. All of those things go into the process. Infinitely more complicated at the county government level, but Joan's responsibilities, all the departments report into her as Director of Operations, and she'll go through some of that. We've been ably assisted in this process by many of our key leaders in the county. Our Budget Director, Larry Sewell, is a critical person throughout the course of all of this, and Karen Hablow, who's our Finance Director, is also a critical part of this. They and their teams contribute fiscal knowledge to go along with whatever our policy needs are. We may talk about policy and what we'd like to see happen, but we have to know, can we afford it? Can we budget for it? And can we finance for it? Because that is also part of the process. How do we go about going to the bond market to borrow money to be able to do the things we need to do? So both Larry, Karen, and their teams are essential to this. And in the area of capital budgeting, all the different department chairs, commissioners, department officers contribute very importantly to this, because it is projects that they identify as being of importance that get onto the table for discussion by senior management. We particularly lean on our Department of Public Works Commissioner, Hugh Grecian, who is a professional engineer by training and has a background in construction areas, so that his responsibilities are essential, but all of the commissioners are an important part of this. And we run in Westchester County a diverse group of services. We have things such as county parks, 50-plus parks around the county. Probably what you see most prominently in our efforts, and those are public capital expenditures that you will see and touch and feel in our parks. You may not see some of the capital work that we will do in our Department of Environmental Facilities. That is where we have sewer treatment facilities, we have waste transfer stations, we have recycling centers, material recovery facilities that are not necessarily open to the public, but the work they do is also essential. So some of these capital projects are visible and easily appreciated, and some of them are sort of behind the scenes, but absolutely necessary. When Joan goes over that, we'll talk then a little bit about some of the way we've gone about getting input on these projects. And Ken, who works directly with the Board of Legislators, will highlight some of the projects that are in this budget that came as advocacy from members of the legislature. Now, both Ken and I have been legislators here in the county government. I've had that privilege of doing that at the state level as well. And many times it's a legislator that's out in the field that sees something, or the community reaches out to that person, and they also have that interaction. Ken's interaction with the legislature, mine as well, has been critical. All of this is reviewed and sort of blessed by our legal department under the direction of our county attorney, John Nona, who's with us in the room. There's a lot of things that operationally and philosophically we'd like to do, and the lawyers will tell us if we can actually do these things. But it's important to know all of those expertise come together in the budget process. When we present the capital budget to the Board of Legislators, they have a deliberative process that will go on probably until the first or maybe the second week of December. We will present to them an operating budget in the first week of November, which complements the capital budget. And in that operating budget will also be our special districts. We have sewer treatment districts that are separate around the county. We also have a countywide refuse district. It doesn't include all the communities. There are some communities that are not part of that consortium, but those will be included with the operating budget. And then at that point in time, the Board of Legislators will have before them all of the information they need. And as no doubt the chairman will point out, they'll set dates for public hearings and get public input on the presented budget. We already held a public input session last Thursday at Scarsdale Library to get generic input on the budget, which included both capital and operating, whatever the individuals wanted to say. Our Deputy Director of Operations, Emily Saltzman, myself, and Ken were there to be able to hear the input. Very little on the capital side, a little bit, but mostly on the operating side. But we had that tool as well to get public input. All of that leads us to where we are today. This proposed capital budget totals $385.15 million in new appropriations. There are existing projects that have been approved in the past that haven't been completed. Those continue to be carried on into the new year, but additional money, $385 plus million in capital improvements. We've gone 5 consecutive years without raising the general taxation, property taxation of our operating budget, and that is a major accomplishment so far. We've increased our reserve funds, which is always seen as a sign of good stability, just like you want to have as much money in your personal savings account to cover any eventualities and to protect you, college educations or retirement, whatever your purposes are for. So do we want to make sure that our reserves are strong for whatever might happen. And we've taken our reserves from a very low position when we started to a much more substantial position now, so much so that we've had stable and improved bond ratings from the major rating agencies. Wall Street agencies take a look at all governments, they make some determinations. We re-achieved the AAA bond rating with one of those organizations, and we have AA plus, AA1 high ratings in the other agencies. Some municipal governments in Westchester have AAAs, but it is by no means a standard situation across the board. You have to sort of earn the trust on Wall Street, and it took us a few years to be able to get to that point, but this budget continues in all of those different things. So what we hope is that we understand the long-term value of the assets of Westchester County. Everybody is concerned about how much am I paying in taxes and this year, and those of us who seek public office seek it at a time when people will hold us accountable for the tax rate. They don't necessarily hold us accountable for the fact that we have an asset that we've let deteriorate over a number of years. And when we finally fix it, it'll be more expensive to do that in the long run. So just as in your home budget, when you see a problem, you have a problem in the attic, and if you don't fix it, it's going to crack a ceiling on your second floor. You can put it off for a while. We've tried not to do that in these budgets, and this budget reflects, I think, some of that responsible behavior. The Board of Legislators will ultimately use their judgment to determine this and the rest of the budget and how comfortable they are. We expect to negotiate out whatever changes that we'd like to see. We at the county level have always had a balanced budget. We've always had an on-time budget. We expect that to happen again. That isn't always the case in other levels of government. At the federal level of government, it's continuing resolutions just to keep the government open. We've never had that situation here in Westchester County, and we're not going to start it now. So hopefully this kind of responsible budgeting gives you a sense of confidence that we are reasonable people trying to get to a reasonable result in a budget. Hopefully that's affordable. More to come when we present the operating budget in a month, but for right now, for the capital budget, I'll ask Joan McDonald to walk us through it.
Thank you, County Executive. First and foremost, it's important to understand that our capital budget is an ongoing process. We are fortunate that it runs on a calendar year because that helps us line up with the construction season, which here in the Northeast is really March, April through October. We have to take advantage of the good weather. So getting the capital budget approved in December is critically important, and getting the bond X approved as they get ready to go to bid is extremely important as well. So it's just important for everybody to understand that. And one of our cornerstones of the 2025 budget is our investment in affordable housing. Through the Housing Implementation Fund, the county is allocating an additional $25 million for projects to invest in infrastructure to meet the growing demand for affordable housing. We're also increasing our new homes land program by $25 million, which allows the county to work with developers, work with municipalities, and make investments in the acquisition of property to build affordable housing throughout this county, which we've been very grateful to do. And with the goal of ensuring longevity and safety of all of our essential elements, of all of our essential assets, County Executive Latimer has continued our investment in infrastructure, making it a key priority. Some of those items include county buildings and technology at $71.67 million, roads and bridges at $69.46 million, and as he mentioned, the refuse, water, and sewer systems at $74.75 million. Some of those are clear to the eye, some are not. We've also included in the budget $26.3 million for the Westchester County Airport. Of those amounts, $15 million will be used for Building 1 upgrades and rehab. It's a building dating back to World War II and is currently in desperate need of repair for housing the county police and other of our air support. This work has required maintenance for safety and function and is not an expansion of the airport. Our budget also includes significant investments in sustainability initiatives. We're increasing our flood mitigation program by $10 million, which brings that total for flood mitigation to $121.5 million over the next 5 years. Within that program, we identify funding opportunities to improve flood mitigation and sustainability throughout the county. Included in that program right now is approximately $27.5 million for our share of the Mamaroneck Sheldrake project. However, Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand have proposed through federal legislation to reduce that amount. And if that amount gets reduced, that will give us additional funds to invest in other projects throughout the county. We've been expanding our EV charging infrastructure. To date, we've installed 150 EV chargers at 15 locations, including staff and parking lots, 5 golf courses, and other parks throughout the county. We also instituted last year a municipal sharing grant program, which so far includes 22 municipalities that will install approximately 595 EV charging stations across 76 locations within the next year. We recognize the importance of quality of life services, and our Parks Department does a fabulous job. Our proposed 2025 budget prioritizes investment in parks, including Pathways and Trails, $1.77 million, the Playland Ice Casino, $21.5 million, the Playland parking lot improvements, $32 million, our Mohansick maintenance facility at $7.5 million, Marshlands building renovations at $2.1, and Marshlands site work at $3.3 million. Those all total $77.97 million of investments in our parks that we are excited to move forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ken.
Thanks, George, and thanks, Joan. There we go.
Okay. There we go. Sorry?
No worries.
There you go.
All right. So working with our colleagues on the County Board of Legislators, certainly their advocacy as the county executive and our director of operations, Joe McDonald, pointed out, our advocacy continued throughout the year on various projects that's seen. Among the projects included in this year's proposed budget included a proposal from County Legislator Colin Smith to include $10.5 million of a capital project to upgrade Peekskill's Highland Avenue pumping station. This particular upgrade is going to strengthen the city's water and sewer infrastructure, ensuring the system can accommodate the increased usage stemming from the population growth in Peekskill and the surrounding areas and all the great things that are happening on the waterfront in the city of Peekskill. In addition, a proposal submitted by County Legislator Emiliano Ulai for $5.5 million in the investment in the Ossining Sanitary Sewer District to fund the replacement of the Keameys Cove force main. Again, this critical infrastructure project modernizes the area's sewer system. And again, as both Joan and George pointed out, a lot of these things aren't seen in the background, but they are absolutely essential to continuing the good environment environmental work that the county does in the Department of Environmental Facilities. In addition, for infrastructure improvement, there's a budget proposal by County Legislator Nancy Barr that funds a $5.3 million infrastructure rehabilitation along Poly Park Road in Harrison and Bowman Avenue in Rybrook. And those kind of projects are the kind of projects that continue to do the infrastructure work. Again, you don't see them in the background, but if you don't make those investments, as the county executive pointed out, those things can cost much, much more going down the path. In addition, the ones that are, again, in our park system and the great work that our nationally accredited award-winning park system continues to do includes a major project that starts at the Hilltop Hanover Farm that was proposed by County Legislator and the Chairman of the Board of Legislators, Radat Ghashi, that's going to fund over $47 million of rehabilitation of the existing buildings and infrastructure over the 250-year-old Hilltop Hanover Farm, an environmental center in Yorktown, which includes 3 new greenhouses and an innovative composting facility. It is our demonstration project that shows all of the new innovative techniques that can happen along the way in Westchester County. And this particular investment in the Westchester County Park, the 187-acre farm, is dedicated to the development and advancement of sustainable agriculture, environmental stewardship, community education, and accessible food systems by all. And not to be left out, our friend and the vice chairman of the board of legislators, Jose Alvarado, included a $6.8 million rehabilitation project for the Tibbetts Brook Pool and the adjacent facilities that includes the pool's infrastructure and improving the overall experience for Yonkers residents who frequent the park and the many other folks that do as well. So with those kind of partnerships, and that's only a sample of the projects that are going on in the $380 million system, the capital project that is being advanced today, and we'll turn it back over to you, Judge.
And I want to highlight and both thank Ken Jenkins and Joan McDonald. As you can see, whether it's in the overall construct of the capital budget that Joan outlined with the help, as aforementioned, Larry Sewell and Karen Hablow and the commissioners, or the role that Ken has played in negotiating with the Board of Legislators, so there's an input from the legislative branch. This achievement is not a one-person achievement. This is a team of people who are committed to public policy. We don't always agree at every single issue, and that's what we work through and under the small d of democracy. But the budget that we have before us today codifies both specific projects and we believe is going to be a sustainable amount within the context of the overall budget that's at hand. So I'm going to invite Chair Radat Ghashi to join us, and we're joined in the room by 2 other legislators. They might as well come up as well. This is a physically heavy budget. Legislators Shanae Williams and Legislator Erica Lang Pierce are also here. They can stand. Who else did I see? Oh, I'm sorry, Jewel Williams Johnson, who heads the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Please come up as we turn over this responsibility to you. And Mr. Chairman and the chair of the committee, this is nice and heavy and filled with lots of things that I think would be interesting, but we'd appreciate if both the chair of the board and the chair of the committee would share their thoughts at this moment. And I will step back this way.
Thank you, County Executive Latimer. When we talk about partners in government, George Latimer really has been a partner for us, and the people up here recognize that Deputy County Executive Joan McDonald, Karen Hablow, and Larry Sewell, and so many others are working together. And I think that's the reason why, since I've been elected, we've been blessed to have so much infrastructure improvement, and that's one of the things we're doing here today with the capital budget review. The Board of Legislators takes its role seriously in this process. It is a long process. It's a lot of meetings, and these meetings start on the 21st. They start right away. Another critical part of that process is the public input, and we have 3 public input sessions. The first is November 14th at the Caputo Community Center in Ossining. The one after that is November 20th. fact-checking me, at the Greenberg Public Library. And the last one is on December 4th at the Board of Legislators Chambers. Again, getting that input from the public is a crucial part for us. So if you can attend those, please do. And give us your input as we review. It is big and heavy. I can confirm a heavy book. So it's more work than one person could do by themselves. So that's why I'm glad to have the support of so many. With that, I'll turn to Budget Director Jewel Williams-Johnson.
Did I get a promotion or demotion?
Budget Chair.
The chair really said everything. This is a hectic time of year when the county executive distributes or releases his proposed budgets, but it's something that I know my colleagues and especially those on the budget committee do look forward to digging in and really assessing and reviewing both budgets, both the capital and the operating, to ensure that we do our due diligence on behalf of all of the residents of Westchester County. We know that a lot of our infrastructure projects were disregarded, I'll say, in prior years before County Executive George Latimer. So we're very excited to see that the upkeep and maintenance and revitalization of our infrastructure is full steam ahead. And we also know that we have to temper that with our fiscal stability and fiscal health of the county because that includes quality of life. And we are all determined to ensure that for all of the residents of Westchester County. So on behalf of the Budget Committee, thank you, County Executive George Latimer, and we're ready to get to work.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Gashi and Committee Chair Jules Williams-Johnson, and of course the other legislators, Erica Pierce and Shanae Williams, who are with us, all 17 members of the board. It was 33 years ago next month that I became a county legislator-elect. I was elected to my first term at the tender age of 38 to serve the district, and I walked into the very chamber that you sit in now for the first time, and I watched the budget process for the 1992 fiscal year as a person that wouldn't vote on that budget, but would try to understand the parameters of what was before us. And over the course of that time, during my tenure as a county legislator, I had the privilege of serving as chair of the County Board of Legislators. I left the legislative body to go to Albany for a number of years. I watched budgeting at the Albany level. I remember my 20 years in corporate life when we had capital budgets that had to be implemented in the various units that I was at. And I have learned over that period of time that the only productive way to do this is with cooperation and involvement of the widest number of people, that you're prepared to have people with expertise that you don't have and put them around the table so that we can talk about fiscal policy, we can talk about implementing actual physical improvements, we can do within the context of the law, we can do it in the context of having public input and legislative input. That is the intelligent way to do this. I've watched it happen at the state level where some of those elements are in place, but not necessarily all of them. And of course, the federal government has a different way of operating. But I believe that what you're seeing is an effort to try to do right by the citizens of Westchester County and to use their tax dollars wisely, but to use it in ways that will count not just for today and tomorrow, but for the long term. And if we do those things properly, then we'll be doing our job. I had a cup of coffee with a friend of mine who's not involved in government at all, and we were talking about, you know, the ALCS and the NLCS and the football, you know, situation, which I tend to talk about in my spare time more than government. But when we talked a little bit about, you know, what I was doing right now, he said, well, you know, this political world is really, and I stopped him. I said, there's politics in what we do. There's no question about that. You run for office as politics. But there is government. And I drew the analysis for him in the career that he's in, and I said, we have to govern. And in the act of governing, we have to be responsible in implementing ideas, not just expressing ideas. We have to find common ground so that we can actually pass a budget that can actually be implemented, because the services and the assets of the county need to be valued properly. That's what what today is about. Today is a moment of governance, and as the board has their deliberation and they identify changes and we work through those changes, capital budget, operating budget to come, that is why it is we run for these offices. Not to, stand in front of a camera with a title, but to accomplish things that people need. And when you see that the lighthouse in Kingsland Point Park has been fixed, when you see that the North and South County Trailways, now named after Andrew P. O'Rourke, have been renovated, when you see the Washington headquarters Miller House, which was on the verge of collapse with a blue tarp, now fixed and operating historic programs out of that, when you see the investment that makes the underlying infrastructure of Playland better, when you see the renovation of Memorial Field, when you see the operation of the Sprainridge pools, the reconstruction of the Wilsonwood pools, when you see those capital projects, that is us doing our job. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thank you for watching. We have more information to share with you at 2 o'clock today and in the days to come. Have a good day.